The MTDCNC podcast, sponsored by Langley Alloys, unique metals for demanding applications, providing first-class performance and an international service.
What are some of the problems facing UK manufacturing at this moment, and how can we solve them? Well, I'm here in part 1 of 6 at the Hoffmann Group with Tim to find out what some of these problems are and how, with the help of Hoffmann, we can get these fixed. So, Tim, welcome to podcast 1.
Thanks, Tom.
Can you just give us a quick, brief introduction to who you are and what you do here at Hoffmann?
Yeah. So I'm Tim Paddison, and I'm the managing director for Hoffmann UK. Obviously, we're a part of the Hoffmann Group, which is a global organisation, and we're specifically, I guess, focused on how we can support UK manufacturing through tooling, equipment, and solutions. And it's a subject we're passionate about.
Now, obviously, UK manufacturing is, let's say, struggling a little at the moment. There's a few reasons for it, but to start off with, Brexit. Now, I know it was some time ago, but we're still feeling the effects of it. So, how did Brexit what were some of the problems you saw from it, and how have you managed to overcome them and help your customers?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Tom, to be honest, because as part of a German company, when I go over there, they always ask me about Brexit, even many years on. And I think when you reflect on the challenges that it presented for UK manufacturing specifically, I think the whole change process was one of the biggest issues. Clearly, we now face more legislation and paperwork and export or import, which is difficult if you're trading outside of the UK. It adds cost to the process. And there can be no doubt that it disrupted the supply chain, at least for a period. Potentially, maybe other issues in the world have been more impactful, but it definitely contributed to that.
Now, obviously, Brexit was just one problem UK manufacturing faced. And I know, like you said, one of the biggest things was trying to get the equipment from other countries into UK. But obviously, there's another problem we face when you've actually got that equipment in is obviously having somebody on your shop floor to use it. So labour shortage is a real tough one at the moment. And it's a big one that everybody seems to be facing. Yeah. So how can we, obviously, we're not going to be able to solve labour shortage overnight, but what can we put in place to help people who are really suffering from it?
Yeah, I think there's a number of different potential things we can do to mitigate it. Like you say, you can't remove it. You know, there is a shortage of labour, particularly skilled labour, but also generally, you know, to get people that, you know, are the right people for organisations in manufacturing is not easy. So we can't solve that. We can maybe mitigate it in one or two different areas. I think definitely trying to look at how we can be more efficient in UK manufacturing is one key way. You know, try to increase productivity. Look at how potentially we can use partners, you know, such as ourselves, to maybe outsource part of the processes, which then puts less pressure on the, you know, labour within that organisation. And I think also being willing to invest in areas that drive productivity and efficiency. It takes an upfront effort, but there's definitely a payoff in the long run.
Now, I'm glad you actually ended that on investment, because another problem we're facing is inflation. Yeah. So inflation and investment are two things that really just don't go together. But are you seeing people actually investing at the moment? Because obviously you don't get anywhere unless you invest.
No, correct. I mean, I think obviously you've always got a mix. You know, and often that's a reflection. Maybe, you know, every business is in a different position commercially, and you have to respect that. I think the government have tried to, over the last, you know, 2 or 3 years, incentivise businesses for investment, you know, with tax breaks, etc. And definitely where you have more forward-looking, and I would say organisations with a more long-term vision, definitely more willing to look at that and see the long-term benefit. So I would say it's a mix, but definitely we speak to many people that have a mindset of trying to solve some of these problems on a long-term rather than a short-term basis.
And obviously for people who are actively investing, that comes with its own set of problems, because we all know we've got a skills gap at the moment. And we've got labour shortage, but then some people you can get people in, you can get apprentices in. There's a lot of people now working through an apprentice programs, trying to get more people in that way. But we seem to have a lot more skilled engineers retiring than actually coming through. Yeah. So how do we solve that? Or can we solve it?
I think this is probably one of the biggest challenges that UK manufacturing faces, is because you're exactly right, Tom. You know, we probably have not attracted enough younger people into the sector over a period of time. And now we're suffering with that, because you know, people of a certain age are deciding it's time to, you know, hang up the boots and do something else in life. And also post Brexit, you know, many people didn't return to work, so all of a sudden we had a much bigger skills gap maybe than we planned. I think, you know, to address that is not a short-term fix. I think we have to find a way of demonstrating to people how important and how exciting this sector can be. I think there's not a full understanding of how important it is to the UK economy. You know, 25% of our economy is reliant on the manufacturing sector, and very close to the same percentage of employment reliant on it. Maybe not always directly employed, but still reliant on the sector. That really shows how important it is to us, not as just as businesses, but also individuals. You know, without a thriving manufacturing sector, where would our economy be? So I think we have to somehow communicate that in a way that makes the sector far more attractive to future people that want, you know, are finding a career path. And I think we have to be more passionate about it. We need to be more proud about what we've got and really think of how we can develop it.
And again, it comes back to, we need to shout about what we do, because let's be honest, you're 100% right. Without manufacturing, there isn't a UK.
Correct.
And the problem is that brings us on to the next problem, is competition from abroad, because UK manufacturing used to be an absolute powerhouse of the world, and now we're suffering and we're struggling. So how do you deal with competition from abroad and still trying to make UK manufacturing great like it was before?
I think with this, it reflects a little bit back on some of the comments, you know, we previously just made. If we want to compete on a global scale, we have to find a way to be more efficient and productive in what we do. You know, unfortunately, we have a bit of a legacy of not being really able to increase productivity. I saw a statistic I read the other day that an actual cost per hour in the UK, that our cost per hour is pretty much the same as it was 20 years ago. So that would suggest we haven't really driven efficiency. So we have to open our minds to that. When you look on a global scale, I think we also have to figure out exactly what it is we're good at and then focus on that. We're not a low-cost country. We're never going to be able to compete with mass volume of, you know, exactly the same component being manufactured in volume, because that can be done probably somewhere else. But we have a lot of skill and we have a lot of knowledge, and I think, you know, our position in the aerospace industry, you know, illustrates that. Second biggest market in the world for aerospace manufacturing. We need to really focus on these areas of high expertise, and that also comes with the need to increase productivity and efficiency.
And I think the efficiency is a big one, because obviously there's a lot of people who go, well, wait a minute, I can send this to another country and have it done at half that price. But if we become more efficient and we get our cost per product down, we can bring our prices down, which then we narrow that margin, which then means we'll keep more in the UK, which is what we need.
Absolutely.
And obviously let's move on to the volatile supply chain, because that's quite a big one for me, because if you can get stuff made here in the UK from UK customers, you don't have to worry about that. Correct. Because you're not worrying about trying to import it, the price and importing it. So how do we do that? How do we show people that it's better to get stuff made locally than have to worry about that volatile supply chain that you might have to go through?
Yeah, so if you know, you mentioned earlier about increasing costs, and you know, shipping around the world is certainly not getting, you know, less expensive, and it becomes more and more unpredictable, I guess. You know, we've got conflicts in different areas, which brings significant risk, even if it's not happening now. You know, you've got maybe extended lead times, which means you might have to carry more inventory, which is a cost to mitigate against that. So I think there's a balance. If we can become more efficient and therefore effectively be able to reduce our end product cost in real terms, then I think there's a big opportunity for more onshoring and being able to shorten the supply chain. And if you look at, you said about the UK being a real powerhouse in manufacturing in the past. I mean, I still think we've got a very strong position. I think the 8th largest in the world, and it's not a coincidence that 9 of the top manufacturing countries in the world are present in the top 10 economies in the world. So, all of these things are not, I guess, looking very short term, but looking longer term can really help us have a healthy sector going forward. And I think that's absolutely essential for the economy.
And let's talk a bit more about the economy and the pricing of things, because do you think, and I see this a lot, which I'm hoping you do as well, is do you see that there's a lot of people in the UK that are slightly scared to make that investment, even though, let's talk about tooling as an easy way of doing it is somebody would rather buy an M mill for £20, but it'll do 5 parts, than rather spend £120 on an M mill that might do 20 parts. Now, do you see that people in the UK seem to have a bit of a worry about spending money, even though in the long run it could actually cost them less?
I don't know whether it's a worry about it. I think maybe it's, again, us thinking differently about things. So, if you were to go to the ONS, the Office of National Statistics, and look at the costs of running a production facility, infrastructure, etc., is the highest cost, and that somewhat is fixed. But the smallest cost that any of these type of organisations actually have is the tooling that they consume, 4%. So if we think differently, we could put a lot of effort into trying to save 5% of 4%, which is 0.2% of the total cost. The 2 biggest areas we can affect, and you referred to this, is direct labour and non-production overhead, which is about 42% of the total cost. So if you can find tooling or equipment that actually gives you better life, therefore makes you more efficient and reduces those costs, you can get 10 times the benefit. And for us, I think we have to, as a sector, think differently about this and not spend what I often see is a disproportionate amount of time on how much it costs rather than how does it perform. And that's longer term rather than short term. Obviously, I accept we have to buy things competitively. There's a cost to that. But, we can put a lot of effort and a lot of hours into something that has not really a material effect on the business. And that same time spent in a different area could have a significant impact positively.
And is this something companies should be doing, where they should be looking at their biggest cost reduction and saying, right, how do I make that even bigger? And like you said, looking at tooling, yes, I can buy this cheap now, but it's not going to last long. Should people be looking at what can make them more efficient, and again, bringing that cost per part down, which obviously means yes, they might spend a bit more on some areas, but if they're bringing the cost per part down, it means they can get more parts through, which also means they can get more parts in, which then they're making more money.
Correct.
But instead of being and we'll call it short-sighted, but instead of being short-sighted and going, well, that's going to cost me X amount, and I'm going to get that, I should look at Y amount, which is further forward, and then look at it from that perspective.
Well, think of it another way. So direct labour is probably the single biggest cost that an organisation is going to have outside of buildings and in investment in, obviously in capital. And if that's, I think that's around about 27 to 30% traditionally of the cost. Well, if you could save 10% of that, then we're looking at a 3% saving. Even if everything that you bought from a tooling perspective costs you 15 or 20% more, it's only 15 or 20% of that 4. So if you take the one from the other, you've spent a bit more, but you've saved a lot more in your actual labour costs, which is where it all is. And it's that kind of thinking differently that, traditionally maybe we've not done so much of, and it's what we encourage and try and work with our clients, because we're passionate about making the UK manufacturing sector more efficient, more productive and more successful. We can't do that by just trying to lower the cost every year, because that has no impact, because things go up. So you're never going to truly be able to reduce the cost. Mitigate the impact of that and look at the real key areas. That's the way forward as far as I'm concerned, and that helps us compete globally.
And I really like that. Don't look at trying to save money on one thing. Look at the overall process and save money on that, which you may have to spend more at the start, but you make more, which means you're costing less at the end.
Correct.
Now, obviously, we talk about tooling, we talk about labour, but another big thing is digitalisation. A lot more companies are taking on this digitalisation, this Industry 4.0. What are some of the worries for companies that aren't doing that? But then also on the flip side, what are the advantages to be more digital?
Well, I guess one of the challenges with it initially would clearly be skills gap. So, if you want to, let's say, future-proof or modernise a facility through digitalisation, that comes with a requirement of some skill to do that, and that's not easy to find. So there's some investment in making sure you have the right people to be able to lead it, and potentially there's investment in those systems. That is, a challenge and an opportunity. Where's the risk? The risk is you don't do it and other people do. And then you're at a position of being at a disadvantage. So I think we have to embrace these things. I'm of a certain generation that maybe, finds it more difficult than others, but you have to accept that this is going to be something that can really help future-proof and modernise how we go about, business in this sector. And from Hoffmann's perspective, we see that, we are investing as an organisation in building digital products that help organisations connect their whole manufacturing process together, right from, talking directly to the machining centre on what tools are needed for the job, where are those tools, connecting it to the presetters, then being able to link that to calibration and putting it all in one digital environment. So we see that as the future, and we're investing in it. And I would like to think that our clients, or certainly the ones that are more forward thinking would be looking in the same way.
And are you seeing your clients taking that approach same as you are? Because obviously it's all right you telling somebody to take that approach, but it's different when you're actually doing that approach yourself. So when you talk to a customer, you have the experience, the knowledge and the background to say, look, we think you should do this. And we're not saying that because we're trying to sell you something. We're telling you that because we're actually doing it and we're seeing the benefits. Yeah. So are you seeing customers taking that on a lot better because you guys are doing it? So is it worth your time doing it to give that experience and that expertise over?
I think what I would see is that there is a level of maybe fear or resistance on how that can be done. That creates maybe an obstacle that has to be overcome. We can really support that. That's what we try and do, is use our experts and our people that are, very knowledgeable in this area to support businesses on the journey. So that removes an obstacle. And I think when you can talk in those terms, that certainly creates, I think, a more of an appetite to look at it, because as we said before, it's quite daunting if you haven't got the skill set. So we try and break down those barriers by offering that support consultancy in that process. Equally, we're all here to be in business, whether we're manufacturing a product or, like us, we're providing services and products into that sector. So for us, it's about working as a partnership. Our whole concept is around being a system partner. That's not just the tools, it's also the solutions, and that is a broad range. And by working together, for me, it's a win-win. We can still be here to support our clients be more successful by, improving productivity and simplifying procurement. And that's our aim, that's our passion, that's what we try and deliver as value to the market.
And I would like to get across, just for anybody who's listening or watching, because this is being filmed, that you have experts in each of your fields. Yeah. You don't have guys that cover absolutely everything. So if you have a problem with any section of your business, you have somebody on hand who is an expert in that range. So does that give a customer ease of mind that they're talking to somebody who's been there and done it, compared to just somebody on the phone who maybe has a notepad and they're trying to go through everything?
I would like to think so, because for us, again, it's an investment. But we really believe that, you've got two approaches to this. You can be an organisation that supplies product, and that's it. And the client selects the product, and the client needs to have the knowledge to know what needs to be bought and what doesn't. And, then you procure that from somewhere where that's available. Or you can provide the product and the expertise to help that customer select the right product for the application that gives them the biggest productivity benefit. And that's where we've invested, because without that, I think we'll just carry on doing the same things, and we'll look back in 5 years and we'll have this conversation again, Tom, because nothing will change. You have to do something different if you want a different result. So directly back to your question, that is the purpose of our specialists, as we call them, across all product categories and solution categories, so that we can stand, I guess, hand in hand, side by side with our clients and help them through the process. That is something we provide as part of our services. It's not a chargeable service. It's part of trading with Hoffmann. We provide that. And that's where we want to make sure we're making a difference in the sector.
So essentially, it's not a customer-buyer relationship. It's a partnership.
Correct.
You're entering a partnership with somebody who knows what you're doing. He knows about the tooling you're using or the material you're machining. He knows everything about that to give you the right decision, the right choices, and just to make your life easier than, like you said, me as a customer trying to decide, I've read through the mag, I think that's right, but I'm not 100% sure. And in the end, it's all, like you said, it's always about making money, where to the point where I'm wasting money because I'm buying things that aren't right.
Correct.
For my process.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to have to read this off the paper because
Okay.
I couldn't get it right. But I just want to talk quickly about your mission statement.
Yes.
Which is, we help our customers be more successful or profitable by increasing productivity and simplifying procurement.
Yes.
What does it mean, and how do you make this work?
Okay, so right back to what we said at the beginning. First of all, it comes from a passion for the manufacturing sector. So why are we here in the UK as Hoffmann? It's because we really want to support the sector. We're passionate about it. We talked about how important it is to the UK economy. So to do that, we have to make a difference. And I think this statement encapsulates that. It's about us helping our clients be more successful, which translates hopefully into profit, by increasing productivity, all those things we talked about. How can we be more productive, produce more for the same cost or less cost, and simplifying the processes in the procurement of those products? For us, that then becomes a reality in a number of different areas. So the increase in productivity is done through the products we have, high quality, high performance, coupled with our consultancy to help our customers use the right products in the right application, whether that be tooling, whether it be, workstations, whether it be PPE, whether it be hand tools, whether it be toolkits, whether, it be other consumables that are used within, in the manufacturing area. And then making sure that those products can be acquired at the most simple, lowest cost. And I'm not talking about piece price, I'm talking about the lowest process to procure those products. So I'll give you an example. Whether it be our digital platforms for procurement, which can be linked directly into a customer's ERP system, full authorization, and approval. So it's not just about people being able to buy what they want. We can help clients control that. Whether it be our inventory management solutions to ensure that we have the right product for our clients on site, at line side when they need it. And we offer a full management service around that. Or I'll give you another example as well with our connected metrology, which is one of our connected products. One of the areas when I go out, I honestly see a lot is that where customers have calibrated assets that are critical to production process, we're still often managing these in Excel spreadsheets and on manual pieces of paper, and then spend a lot of time finding where they are, and then find out that they're out of, certification, and we need to quickly get that done. So our connected metrology allows a customer simply to connect all that together, know where the product is, automated management, reducing cost and simplifying the process in managing calibrated assets. That's the simplifying procurement and management processes. And then, as we said, the right product at the right time to make them more efficient, more productive through using the right applications.
Now, that was absolutely spot on. And we spoke a lot about Hoffmann and what you guys can do and how you guys can help. And we spoke a lot about how your team members are experts in their field. Mm-hmm. Now, last question.
Yep.
Obviously, for people who are for companies who are sat on the fence, you have a scheme which we're going to talk about in more detail later on, but I'd like to get it from you as well.
Yeah.
Is your GSP.
Yeah. Yep.
So what is GSP and how does this help the customer in the long run? Not just save money, but save time, essentially just help their business grow.
Yeah, so GSP, or Guaranteed Savings Plan, is, I guess, a program that we have to remove that risk, I guess. So you're quite right. It could sound really good, and maybe, people listening think it's too good to be true. All this stuff, all this value that you can deliver, but is it really possible? Well, we believe that so much we'll guarantee it. So we have a Guaranteed Savings Plan program, which effectively says for, clients that come to us and say, right, let's put you to the test. We will guarantee or underwrite a percentage of savings annually, as long as we get access to deliver that value. And that could be, through process improvement. It could be by simplifying the procurement process. It could be by different products in the application, but all these things are documented. And if we don't achieve that target, then there's a check at the end of the year. But we believe we will deliver that or more, but we're so confident we'll guarantee it. And I think that's the way to remove the barrier of saying, well, I really want to be able to improve that. Can I really believe you can help us deliver it?
Now, the reason I bring this up is because obviously we spoke a lot about the problems UK manufacturing faces and the problems businesses are facing with investment, skills gap, labour shortage. We spoke about all that. Now, with the Guaranteed Savings Plan, my hope is that somebody will listen to what you've just said and go, well, actually, okay, we are struggling in these parts of our business. What have we got to lose? Let's have a go with Hoffmann's Guaranteed Savings Plan. If it doesn't work out, we're not out of pocket. But if it does work out, then it's a win-win for us all.
Correct, because any savings obviously are not, this is not about a piece price saving. It's about an efficiency and productivity saving. So you get that year after year after year going forward. So, the long-term benefits clearly outweigh that initial GSP program, but that's the point of it. Because if we're passionate about this sector, we believe we have to deliver some value. It's just words otherwise. So, we want to put those words in action, if you like. And this is one way that we do that. And, speak to any of our teams, speak to the office, and we'd be more than happy to, explain to, current customers or potential ones how we can do it and how it works.
Well, Tim, from me and from us all at MTD, I would like to say a big thank you to you for your time and for your knowledge, which you have. It's unreal where you've been and what you've done, and it really shows. And it shows how passionate you are about UK manufacturing and how Hoffmann are really trying to help bridge that gap and bring the UK back. And let's hope one day we're not in the top 8, we can be in the top 3.
Let's get there.
Now, just before we finish, I'd just like to say a big thank you to Langley Alloys, who are the sponsor of the MTD podcast. And don't forget, this is just part 1 of 6 we're doing here at Hoffmann. So if there's something in this you'd like, or there's something you want a bit more information about, don't worry, because we will probably cover it. And we'll see you in the next time. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the MTDCNC podcast, sponsored by Langley Alloys, specialists in a wide range of exotic materials for any application for all your engineering needs.